Hello, I'm Bob Warwick, and welcome to another installment of our show, The Docket. As many of you know, and for those of you who don't, The Docket deals with legal issues and entities that affect you and our community. We try to present these things in both an understandable and enjoyable way. Thanks for joining us, and certainly we welcome any feedback or suggestions that you might have. We'll be right back with today's guest. Our guest today is Delia Brinos, the El Paso County Clerk. I have known Delia for probably over 30 years. Certainly I had hair when we first met. Actually, I had a lot of hair when we first met. And during that time, she's become very accomplished, and she's been the El Paso County Clerk for the past 16 years, I think. I know being the El Paso County Clerk is a very important position, but I know that as an attorney, and I deal with just a very small part of her office. So I thought it'd be a good idea to ask her to come on the program and let her know exactly what the El Paso County Clerk's office does and how it's changed over the years. So Delia, let me welcome you. Thank you for coming. I am really pleased that you're here, and I look at you and I think, oh my God, we've known each other so long. You're a lot younger than I am, but man, we have known each other a long time.
Yes.
So I just like to start, because this is really a local program, and you're a native El Pasoan, I think.
Yes, born and raised.
And that in itself I find fascinating. I mean, I love El Paso. I can't think of any place else I'd rather live. And I just think it must have been wonderful being born and raised here and seeing all the changes that have gone on. And I'm going to want you to tell us about the changes in the county clerk's office too. But let me ask a few other questions. Obviously, you were born and raised here. You went to high school here?
Austin High School, yes, sir.
You went to Austin High. And I think you did, like a lot of women back then, you went to UTEP. You weren't quite able to finish, though. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, you had kids and you worked and...
Lost my parents. I was divorced, and I didn't have the family support of someone to help you to fall back on.
And
mother.
Look at where you are now. Now you're running the county clerk's office. You have a budget of, I think, $5 million?
Yes.
And 85 employees.
Yes.
So that's not any small stuff. Good for you. What I'd like to do, I mean, there are a number of things. When we talked before we got together here, we talked about how you turned the office into being paperless. We talked about something that I find absolutely fascinating, sovereign citizens. And you explained to me how you're the preservationist and the archivist of all of El Paso's history, basically, anything that passes through your office. So I'm going to let you start right now. Let's start with the issue of the office being paperless, because I have a little bit of experience with that, but explain it.
I had really wanted to get started doing that because we had so much paper in my office, boxes and boxes, well, even from the beginning of time. So where do you put all of this? We were running out of space. So I kept wanting to go paperless, and there was some resistance from the judges because they like seeing the actual file in front of them.
Old school.
Yes. So it was changed for our staff, for me, for them, even for attorneys, because when we finally got it done, attorneys were a little reluctant to get it going in their offices. We kind of had to train their office staff too, as well as title companies. That was a big thing for us because at that point we had runners, the lines for the criminal department, civil department, the deeds department.
And when you say runners, you mean people who were coming down from the attorney's office
were
with all this paper?
Yeah. Yes, go take this down, go file it. And so the title companies would want to see it done right away because they wanted it funded. They wanted to cut the checks to the parties. But even now electronically, everything's done that same day. It's not waiting till the next day. And so even before it was paperless, the court staff that the clerks assigned to the court have to scan everything that transpired that day. You can't save it till the next day. You have to finish every single day's worth and scan that day's worth. Yes.
And I'll tell you, I was probably one of those people that would, oh my God, how can I not have paper? Now it's wonderful. We send something down, a deed, for example. We send the deed down. An hour later, 2 hours later, it's back in our office with all the filing information. We give it to the client and everything is great. But I also think, and you were explaining to me that being paperless, now you don't have attorneys down there all day, funeral home people down there all day, runners from attorneys' offices
Correct.
down there all day. So the general public.
And when you say funeral homes too, they used to stand in line. They can file electronically, but even the doctor's signatures now can be done electronically. And it took a little work, and I had to call a couple of doctors saying, no, you must get on board, because there was some push. And I said, then I cannot give it to you until you do it electronically. So they all got on board. So it was a learning process for all of El Paso.
That's what I was going to say. You just have to learn it, and then you see the benefits from it. But now the general public can go in, and they're not standing
That's the benefit.
in line.
Yes, because the line, it really was out the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, funeral homes, another line, and the criminal department, and all the title companies. It was Grand Central Station. It's no longer like that. If you go in, yes, it's pleasantly full, but it's not packed like it was. And that's what's making it accessible to our citizens. That was the most important thing, is
Absolutely.
that office runs for them. Everything we do there is for them.
For the public.
For the
In El
public.
Paso.
Yes.
What are some of the reasons that the public would come down to you? Well, first of all, where is your office?
500 East San Antonio. It's the courthouse downtown on San Antonio Street between Kansas and Campbell. It's the mirrored windows. I'm on the first floor. To the right, half of the first floor is the county clerk. The county clerk handles the county court of law judges. District clerk handles district judges. Those are state.
And you also handle the probate judges.
Correct.
Okay.
So with the county court of law, we handle all misdemeanors. Those are repeat offenders. We have numerous people that it's a revolving door. Where felonies, they get put away in the district clerks. Ours are multiple. But we also have 2 probate judges too. So we have several clerks that serve the county judges and the probate judges. And both probate judges also handle the mental hearings
Right.
at the hospital. So our clerks also have to be well-versed also in handling those mental files too.
And so you have different departments. You have the
Yes.
probate department, then for the mental,
There's
in the
7
probate.
departments.
Right.
Yes.
And then the county court at law judges.
Yes.
But what are some of the reasons, like somebody from the general public would walk into you? What kind of information are they looking for?
To see if a case had been expunged. I no longer, or they were applying for a government job. They want to make sure there's no charges against them. They want to see what their employer's going to find. They can make a search on themselves, or something was supposed to be expunged or never been filed, and they want to be absolutely certain that nothing is there, that they have a pristine file. Or how old a file is. You know, you could have a DWI that should have been expunged, or 5 years later, you can still have it expunged. You know, if you go to an attorney and file the case, it may also be taken care of and erased.
And they might want to come in, so that would be like the quote legal part of it, but they might want to come in and get a copy of one of their kids' birth certificates.
Yes.
And what do they have to show to you?
You have to be immediate family.
Okay, but what do
So,
they need? What?
Your license,
Okay, perfect.
you know, but or a border city, and sometimes there's people who have come from Mexico and they have had a child here or children, and then those children are of age now to get into school. Well, to get into school, you need a birth certificate, but they don't have any documentation, maybe because they may not be here legally. And so how do you get your birth certificate? So what I did was, it's called Vital Check. That's who we use. And you can look on my website, epcounty.com, under Vital Statistics, Public Records, County Clerk, and then Vital Statistics. Under Vital Check, if you fill in all the blanks.
That when you say if you're talking about
the parents,
okay, perfect.
Family members,
okay,
because they may not understand English or the translation, and their cousin is translating, and let me put this in there for you. But only you know that information, who the father is and what birthday it is. So if you fill in all the blanks and you have a Visa card and you pay electronically, normally it's $23 if you come into the office, but for an extra $10, you get it sent to you electronically, well, mailed to you. But we could even mail it to Mexico or to Germany, or your child.
This is the actual birth certificate you can send out so they can work with it.
Yes. So, or here, they're living here, then get it mailed to them here. But that way, they don't have to hit that bump in the road. There is a way to do it. And for that reason, I thought that was a great thing to do, service to the public, because that's our population. That's what it is. We have children that go off to college, and the parents say, oh, I need to find this because he needs whatever class or registration. And I tell him, he can do it from his dorm. He can look it up.
Yeah.
You don't need to come here. So that's another way of service to people.
And that information is all given to the public. They just need to pick up the phone call and say, this is my situation, and your staff will tell them.
Definitely. And we had so many of those calls during COVID because everybody had questions. They didn't know which way to turn. But
and,
yes.
And that's I'm glad you mentioned COVID. So are there any restrictions in your office for somebody who wants to come in now for something? Are there any COVID restrictions, or they can come in?
No, there was in the beginning where everybody we had to have masks,
right,
until the county judge said, well, first, the doors are open, because it was almost 2 years of closed,
right,
and then no longer needing masks. So present day, no. But I can tell you, even when COVID was happening and the courthouse was closed, I made sure we did marriages outside my office in the foyer.
Oh, is that right?
Because people wanted to get married.
Yeah.
And I didn't, after the first week, I thought, this is going to last. I need to figure out a way to go around this. And so I made appointments, first every 30 minutes and then every 15 minutes. I had to give a list to the sheriff of who to let in the courthouse. So one couple would go out, and then they'd allow the next couple, and we'd wipe down the table, cash registers,
and
everything.
And was this for the actual marriage, or just getting the certificate?
The certificate.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Now, some people weren't able to find a judge, maybe.
Right.
And they wanted their money back, but it was only good for 30 days, so you could still go find a pastor or someone else to marry you.
Yeah.
But the courthouse had kind of changed at that time. But our office worked. Everything was either electronic or by mail and phone calls.
And you found a way to make it.
But we got everything done. Yeah. In my opinion, I feel we held that courthouse up. We did not stop.
Good for you.
We did not stop. Employees were there, and are still there.
So tell me now, we talked about a couple, I'm going to save the sovereign citizen for a minute. Talk to me about the preservation and the archives. And I think you mentioned to me that you have from 1874.
Yes, in my possession.
Wow.
Yes. All of those old books, when I got to the office, they were falling apart. the binding, the pages. People had been handling them. They didn't think about not touching them with their fingers, the oil on their fingers. Anyway, I had to look into preservation. I had seen in San Antonio how you go there and you see artifacts, Bowie's knife on exhibit. And I'm thinking, well, what does El Paso have? I don't see anything in El Paso. I don't know any relics that we have. I searched.
I'm a relic.
But all those books to me were important because you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I went out looking for a vendor. I found a sole source provider, CoFile, who is part of, the Texas Commission of Archives. And they do the preservation, and they dehumidify them, enhance them, because some of them are a little faded. They are encapsulated, put chemicals in there to preserve them, sealed in a huge book like a suitcase. It's waterproof and can last at least a couple of thousand years.
But they don't digitize it, or they do digitize it?
They were not hired to digitize, but day one, before I did that project, I was looking for the beginning of time. And I found those books were given to UTEP, the first 33 volumes.
These are the first 33 prior to 1874?
No, like 1874. It's like the beginning of time here in our city.
In the where you would have something written down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I could not get my hands on them. And so at that time I was told by the president of UTEP, well, I'll allow you to bring a vendor here and scan them, because I said, let me pay for it, and each of us have that information. UTEP and the City of El Paso, County of El Paso. And she allowed me to do that. So people came in for about a year and sat at UTEP and scanned them all. Well, I never got my hands on the books, but within the last year, it was a firm no. So I went back to the vendor saying, okay, I got these scanned about 10 years ago. Can you replicate these into the books that we have now, so that we have the beginning of time and I have all the volumes? And they said, yes, we can do that. So presently, that's what I'm doing the first 33 volumes of time.
So can anybody look through that?
Normally, no. It's a secure site because of how important they are and how to handle them. But if someone is looking for something, in particular, you can ask for it, we can look for it, and we can pull the book because it's at another location, bring it to the courthouse, and you can see it in the courthouse. We would do that for you. And we have.
And you can look through it?
Yes.
But to do that, you have to be wearing white gloves or something?
No, because they're sealed
Oh,
now.
that's right, that's right.
They're encapsulated totally, so you're not touching anything.
Very neat. So
Yes.
if I wanted to look up the history of my house, and I gave you the address, you could find the right book, bring it down, I
Correct.
could look at it.
And you can look for it now. They'll tell you at the deeds department where to look. You can look from your computer. It's digitized.
Wow.
You can do that.
Oh,
there.
it is digitized?
Yes, it is. Yes, electronically, that we had done, that CoFile was doing the books to begin with, just the books. But I think it's a wonderful project that we have commenced. We're going to start our 9th year. So for 500 books that go out, the county clerk's office pays $1.5 million for 500 books.
Right.
So every year that
Wow.
gets pushed out.
Wow.
So we're going to have a beautiful history of all the books and everything. You can find your grandparents' marriage certificate.
Right.
You can find that. And the signatures. Beautiful penmanship, the calligraphy, it's beautiful.
So it would be things like deeds, marriage, death, births, and it's all...
And even maps. We're in the process of doing maps of properties. Yes.
Really? Oh, I think that's very neat. So the county clerk's office then is basically the archivist
Correct.
for the whole county.
Correct.
And we're saying the whole county. So you would have the information from Canutillo or Fabens or wherever. It's not just the city of El Paso.
The county started in Isleta, I
That's
believe.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Before it came here, San Elizario, and then Isleta, and then here.
Wasn't the
Yes.
first Thanksgiving down there someplace?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fascinating. All right, now let's go to this other thing that I found fascinating called, I think you referred to it as sovereign citizens. In best you can, would you try to explain that so we can explain to the people watching what it is? Because the ultimate end result of this is great.
Well, what happened was, well, the definition of sovereign citizen, I don't have the official, but to me, they're not a citizen of the United States. And so they believe their government.
They don't recognize our government.
They don't recognize us. And so what they were doing was filing a lien on different properties arbitrarily. There was one particular man that would come in filing all the time. To one of my employees says, this guy's here all the time. I don't know what he's doing. I said, well, show me. So it's these employees that they're questioning something. And so when they bring it to me, that's when I look into it. And in doing so, this man was there like weekly, and then I'd send it to the county attorney's office, and they said, this is not legal. And then again, several times till, quit sending them to us. You should have it down by now, because we did. It's their verbiage. It's an unusual type of verbiage of how they
that they
word
use
it.
in their paperwork.
Yes, in their paperwork. So this man was doing it quite frequently, and we kept rejecting him. And he knew that we knew who he was. So then he started paying people out front on the sidewalk. I'll give you $5, $10 if you go in and file this. And we would still catch him. We're not going to receive these. No.
And when you say not going to receive them, these were like liens against somebody's property. He would say, so-and-so owes me $50,000 and I am filing this against the property. So if those people went to sell their property, this lien would show up.
It would show up, exactly.
So it's like extortion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Your father may have passed away and your mother wants to sell the property. And then she finds out there's this lien on it, and she's saying, who's John Smith? I've never heard of this man. Why do I owe him $50,000? Well, then how do you remove it? You have to go to court. You have to hire an attorney. Well, when I came across this one man, I went to the FBI and Homeland Security, and they said, you are correct, but we have some that we want you to look into. And there were 30 names they gave me. In looking all these 30 names, all these different people were doing the same thing.
All in El Paso?
All in El Paso. Wow. And so we totaled them all up, and it was over $300,000 put upon several homes.
Fake liens filed against different properties.
And see, when you file something in the courthouse, you're creating history. By law, you cannot remove it unless it's by court order. So because I had the support of the FBI and Homeland Security, I went to a judge and I said, this is what I've come across, and it's not legal. And so this particular judge made a court order allowing me to remove all of them.
To actually remove them.
It's major. That never has happened. And so in doing that, I had to return the filing fee of all these documents to these 30 people. Yes. And so they were very upset. So they're not filing in my office any longer. And that first fella, he did a year's time, and he has since passed away. But he did stop because we stopped him. He knew we were onto him. And it's, when you think a lien, it's like a mechanic's lien. Someone does a roof for you and you pay them, and he's saying you never did pay him, and then he files a lien on your house and you knew nothing about it. So the public should every once in a while look at their homes to see their deeds to make sure there's no liens on it.
Well, that's a little bit like I'd asked you about this, and you had said to me you hadn't heard about it. But on TV, I explained to you I had heard this. It's something where the TV ad is about getting protection because people will file a deed to your house and basically take your house away from you, or you don't own it anymore. Again, it's extortion.
Yes. And
people shouldn't have to do that. But I want to go one extra step because now we're kind of running out of time here, and there's so much I want to talk. But so here you were able to remove them. What happens if I go in and you suspect that I am filing something like this?
I don't have to accept it.
Okay, that's what I wanted the public to know. To me, that's phenomenal that you don't have, I thought anybody who had a notarized document, I didn't know that.
Exactly, and even with a marriage certificate, sometimes you have a young lady that is trying to marry an older man that she think is going to pass away soon, and so she's
and
pushing,
he doesn't really know what's
correct.
Going on.
Sometimes he may have dementia, he's up in years, he doesn't realize what he's doing. We ask him questions, and if it seems questionable, we don't give him a marriage certificate either.
Yeah, see,
we don't have to.
I had no idea that you had the ability to do that. And
yes.
I think that it's good for people watching this to know that among the other things you can do, you can protect them.
Definitely.
Well, listen, I hate to say this, but we're ending up now. We have a few seconds left. I really appreciate you doing this. I mean, certainly
Thank you.
For me, like I said to you, I deal with the county clerk's office, but I generally deal with it with probate, or I need a death certificate, or when I used to go down and have to stand in line filing
yes.
this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I hope everybody listening realizes how you've modernized it, how you've made it more efficient, how you're receptive to the public.
Oh, definitely.
And people can call with their questions and you can direct them to the right place.
After this program, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to call me, and I will speak to you personally. I don't have
Give
a
us a
problem
number
with it.
they can call.
546-2071.
915-546-2071. Don't forget to dial the 915. It won't go through otherwise.
Yes,
so I don't
we're
know.
here to serve you. We're here to help you.
Delia, thank you so much.
Thank
this
you.
has been terrific.
Right. Thank you.
Take care.